Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez is pushing through a series of legislation this week, all designed to enhance his presidential powers while neutralizing the opposition. This is going to be a rough year for the Venezuelan government, and Chavez does not seem to be taking any chances. The current session of Venezuela's National Assembly was set to expire December 15th, but the ruling party is pushing through the end of the week in order to cram in as much legislation as possible before the opposition comes in and dilutes the ruling party's majority in the coming new year. What all of these laws have in common is that they're all intended to enhance the powers of the executive branch while trying to meaningfully neutralize the opposition as much as possible. A really interesting one that came up just this past week and was kind of snuck in at the last minute is an enabling law for the president to rule by executive decree for up to 1 year. The law basically allows Chavez to pass whatever he wants as long as it fits into the very ambiguous categories of national security, defense, land use, transport, dealing with the financial sectors, housing sector, among others. Evidently, the Venezuelan government is expecting a rough year ahead, and for good reason. The economic decay in Venezuela is becoming increasingly visible, with ongoing money laundering rackets exacerbating the already critical conditions of state sectors across the country. But what is being less paid attention to now are the vulnerabilities of the Venezuelan regime abroad, particularly concerning its allies in countries like Cuba, Iran, China, and Russia. The Cubans can be seen in pretty much every corridor of Venezuelan power. Critically, they have immense leverage over the Venezuelan security apparatus. What that essentially means is that the Cubans are in charge of notifying the president whenever a coup threat arises, and we've already seen rumblings of this in recent weeks. The Chinese, meanwhile, are pouring billions of dollars of investment into the Venezuelan economy. They're taking advantage of the Venezuelan government's vulnerabilities right now to get extremely favorable terms on a variety of investment deals, most notably in the energy sector. The Iranians have extensive financial links into Venezuela that allows them to circumvent sanctions, and this is an issue that is increasingly attracting the attention of the United States. Critically, there are also signs that the U.S. is paying more attention to the deepening military linkages between Venezuela and Iran. The Russians maintain a tight defense relationship with the Venezuelans, and they also hold important economic assets in the country, but they also know when to keep their distance when they need to. The biggest problem confronting Chavez right now is that each of these allies have varying interests and varying involvement in Venezuela. At a certain point, those interests could collide, especially as the Venezuelan government becomes more vulnerable. Those allies are going to be demanding much more of Venezuela and could push things too far. This is something that we're starting to see develop, particularly with the Venezuelan relationship with the Iranians. The Venezuelans also have a considerable reason to worry about Cuba, a country that is strapped for cash, is asking Venezuela for sizable loans that Venezuela may not even be able to deliver on at this point. When you consider that Cuba has immense leverage over the Venezuelan security apparatus, and when you consider that the threats within the regime are rising, that Cuban factor becomes absolutely critical for the president. Chavez may have a lot of friends right now in his time of need. His problem is that the interests of each of those friends could eventually collide, and in the grand scheme of things, each of these allies could consider Venezuela a dispensable ally.